Hello everyone, this is Team 2 and we are very excited to be here today to present to you our final presentation on supporting students into long-term housing security. Before diving into our topic, we would like to introduce a quote from the former First Lady Laura Bush that says, "Giving homeless children the chance to be educated, giving them this ticket to their future is so wonderful. They'll have the chance to not repeat the suffering of their childhoods in their own families. They can build secure and safe lives for themselves and their children." So now please meet Team 2, myself, Marcy, Justin, Shahi, and Montasir. We're a group of students with a diverse field of study and background, which has undeniably helped us combine our skills and expertise to form our high impact question and tackling the homelessness issue. We used our initial analysis of student population experiencing homelessness to form our high impact question, which is, how can Allegheny County Department of Human Services effectively allocate services to improve housing security for students at risk for homelessness or currently experiencing homelessness? So, when doing our analysis and external research, we found that Pennsylvania has a rising rate of students going through housing insecurity. Online and hybrid education during the COVID-19 pandemic has allowed more students to split into housing insecurity unnoticed. PA is currently the 32nd in the nation for identifying homeless students, so there's certainly a lot of room to grow. Our team looked at students from the ages of 4 to 17 and decided to divide them into three main categories according to what HUD project type they were placed. The categories are being at risk for homelessness, experiencing homelessness, and formerly homeless. We found, based on the HMIS universal dataset provided to us in this competition, that only 19% of students are not facing housing insecurity in Allegheny County. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Montasir.
Thank you, Gabby. Our concern now is to increase the pie slice of the formerly homeless and reduce the numbers at risk or experiencing homelessness. With our K-means cluster, we came up with 5 formidable clusters based on the variables of the regression that we had performed previously. And we found variables such as disabling conditions, domestic violence history, and mental health issues to be of high importance, while gender segregation and categories of homelessness had medium high importance. We found 2 significant clusters, male and female, with disabling conditions, mental health issues, or developmental disabilities, at risk or experiencing homelessness with a mean age of entry into the system at around 10 to 11 years. Concerning furthermore was our top cluster accounting for about 40% of the dataset, comprising largely of the female population at risk of homelessness, and this can increase that slice of experiencing homelessness even more. Now, we focus on the segment experiencing homelessness as we analyze some of the salient features to model our solutions that we will be presenting later. Compiling data from the US Department of Education and combining it with the local education agency data for Allegheny County helped us to analyze which zip codes we needed to focus on based on the number of homeless students per zip code. And we found out that Oakland came out highest ranking. Now, the homeless students' living conditions were also analyzed to see what living situation these students were actually coming up in. We found a resounding number of students to be living in a doubled up situation. Basically, they're sharing another person's housing facilities temporarily due to lack of housing, economic conditions, or other such features. So we see that a significant number, about 2/3 of the population here, is doubling up. But is doubling up a viable solution? Schoolhouse Washington, that works on improving housing stability and advancing educational success for students experiencing homelessness, had this to say, that students experiencing homelessness who are living doubled up have similarly poor academic outcomes as those living in hotels, motels, in shelters, or unsheltered. Now, Marcy will take up this topic further.
Thank you, Montasir. Doubled up students are often stereotyped as not necessarily being as vulnerable as other homeless students who might be unsheltered. since they may be staying with an extended family member or friend. However, in a study performed by the Louisiana Department of Education, doubled up homeless students' academic performance is nearly indistinguishable from that of other homeless students and significantly below even low-income house students. In addition, a study of students in Washington State found that doubled up students are equally likely as their other homeless peers to be suspended, have high levels of absenteeism, and have the lowest graduation rates. This indicates that this sometimes invisible population still faces significant academic challenges and should be equally prioritized for resources. What happens when a student facing housing insecurity drops out of school? To better answer that question, we analyzed the population of adults in the Department of Human Services system who dropped out of school. We found that in Allegheny County, adults who drop out of school are significantly more likely to have been on the street, in an emergency shelter, or safe haven 4 or more times. This indicates that an ongoing cycle of housing insecurity for this very vulnerable population. Adults who fail to graduate high school are also significantly more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, in addition to being at higher risk of unemployment. Taken together, these statistics indicate that it is imperative to support students facing housing insecurity so that they have the best chance of finishing school and succeeding in adulthood. As the saying goes, an ounce of prevention, in this case for students facing housing insecurity, is worth a pound of cure for adults encountering repeat experiences of homelessness. And now I will pass it over to Justin, who will introduce our solution.
Thanks, Marcy. So what do students experiencing housing insecurity need the most? This might seem like a very loaded question, but the most boiled down explanation is students need support. Students who have had an adult or mentor role in their lives are more likely to continue their education down the line. This tied in with the resources that make schooling easier, such as technology that's appropriate for their age, as well as consistent internet connection, is one of the best ways to set them up for success. In our solution, we created a three-prong approach to handling this problem. We have a short-term, an intermediate term, and a long-term. The short term is to focus on what already exists, expand learning centers for students who are facing housing insecurity, and to continue to establish community partnerships so that we can better them. The second is to invest in 3D printing and building supplies so that we can find and create homing that is more affordable for students. And then finally, the long-term solution of increasing available permanent housing for students and families. This would tie into the 3D printing and looking for building supplies. It's important that we focus on improving learning centers that already exist so that they are more inclusive for any student who is struggling. Students who will have better access to tutors and supplies that are appropriate for their age, this includes computers and tablets, are going to be more successful down the line. If you look at on the chart on the right, we've created an estimated cost of renovating a center. The annual cost boils down to around $53,000 a year, which might sound a lot for an individual center, but as Marcy said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Luckily, we've mentioned before in our last presentation that there's already a great template that is created for a learning center, and it's associated with the University of Pittsburgh. In the Homewood Brushton neighborhood, they've created the Community Engagement Center, which is focused on creating a space for that community to have the resources that they don't at their houses. One of those resources being classrooms for teachers to rent out to help teach classes. There's lab space, there's computer labs, as well as an art exhibit that highlights the local artists in the community. So this is definitely a circle of issues. It all starts with students who are experiencing housing insecurity. Students who are experiencing housing insecurity tend to have higher absenteeism. They have truancy causes, which then, with them not going to school, is going to lead to lower academic performance. A lower academic performance is going to lead to a higher dropout rate, which then, down the line, is going to more likely lead to experiencing homelessness as an adult. This is then a vicious cycle leading to more students experiencing housing insecurity, but we need to break that cycle. If we are able to find a way to provide students with permanent housing and academic support, we can break the cycle of homelessness and ensure that students down the line and future generations will not have this issue. I'm going to pass it on to Chahi now.
So in 1883, Vincent van Gogh wrote his letter to his brother Theo: "To save a life is a real and beautiful thing. To make a home for the homeless, yes, it is a thing that must be good. Whatever the word may say, it cannot be wrong." For our long-term solution design, we'd like to recommend to increase the permanent housing availability for students experiencing homelessness. Since the first showcase in 2018, the 3D printed homes are currently built and in progress of expanding the community in Tabasco, Mexico, and Austin, Texas, helping families with extreme poverty and unsafe shelter. It only took up to 48 hours with $10,000 at 25% of speed. One of the construction companies, Icon, says it won't be just a dream to build a 600 to 800 square feet home in just 24 hours, with the cost of $4,000 or less when they run with the full speed. Now we can compare how this long-term solution design could be beneficial in terms of the cost effectiveness. To take examples of Section 8 and multi-income housing in Pittsburgh, Skyline Terrace, and Auckland Affordable Living, for example, the project cost was approximately $19 million and $16 million, respectively, to build about 50 units. On the other hand, with the 3D printed affordable housing option, it would cost maximum of $1.5 million to build a 50 units. This number includes the possible maximum price of the 3D printer. Not to mention, this could be done in a lot shorter amount of time. Therefore, after the initial investment in 3D printer, the cost of each additional housing community can be saved as much as 95%. Also, since the companies are still working on commercializing the 3D printers yet, aiming for a potential partnership opportunity may be possible. It could be either with the construction company itself or with News Story, for example, a nonprofit that pioneers solutions to end global homelessness in order to lower the print purchase costs.
So 3D printed housing is a very cost-effective, sustainable, and easy to maintain construction. 3D housing uses a much stronger and resilient cement and concrete. These materials are easy to source from anywhere and that can be printed at high speed while still keeping projects on schedule. The design takes advantage of a high thermal mass of concrete to optimize comfort and efficiency, and it can withstand extreme weather conditions. 3D printing is a growing industry that brings several benefits. This process saves time, cost, and material. Houses are fully insulated, made of recycled materials, have lower repair costs, and a high number of establishments can be built in a short period of time. We're also talking about a much smaller number of workers needed with a very high safety level. 3D printing is the future of affordable housing that we can make it happen today. To conclude our presentation, we have a testimonial from Jason Ballard, the CEO of Icon, and he comments, "I'm so proud. It is so rare to the most in need of our sisters and brothers globally get first access to advanced technologies and breakthroughs in material science. We think part of the 3D printing allows us to do is to deliver a much higher quality product to the housing market at speed and price that's typically not available for people in low income housing." Thank you very much.